Welcome to Dwarven Forge Live. This is our Reliquaries deep dive on the Dwarven theme. I am Nate, and I'm hanging out here with Chris in the battle station across the studio, and Eli. I don't know where to point to get to Eli. He's
Point to
he's
your
north.
left. Point to your left.
My left?
Yeah. Over there.
There he is. Up joining us from Crashbury Commons, Vermont. Hello, Eli.
Awesome.
Hello there. Hi, everybody.
And you're it's already snowing, huh?
It has been snowing a bit, yes. Just reminding us that
Oh,
winter is...
hang on a second. His audio's not going through.
Uh-oh.
No tech issues on this podcast.
How's your pantomiming? Because nobody can hear you, apparently.
Got it. Okay, we should be getting him through now. Go ahead and talk.
Can you
Oh,
hear me
no,
now?
now
now
he's Stop.
Okay.
Yes? No?
Yeah, okay, yeah, we're getting you. We're good.
You're good. Okay, good.
So this is the, like every good show in Dwarven Forge Live, is the show where we have no tech issues. We're going to show you raw, uncut, behind the scenes here at Dwarven Forge, how it all goes together. We're focusing on Reliquaries, which is our Kickstarter, which is running live. It just launched yesterday. We funded yesterday. We broke $120,000. We're cooking along. We'll put a link in the chat in case you haven't seen it. But mostly we're going to look at how we made these, talk about the process of making these dwarven pieces, and field your questions. We'd love to interact with you and find out what you think of these and what's confusing you, what you want to learn more about, and mostly hang out for, how long are we doing, an hour?
I was thinking an hour to 90 minutes at most.
Yeah. So
I also just realized this is our third stream in the first 24 hours of the campaign. It hasn't even been our first 24 hours yet.
Gonna drink some Wayusa tea and enjoy a lively.
Oh,
chat
Nate
about
has a
art.
meeting in an hour, so we're doing it in an hour.
All right. Sounds like an hour.
We're getting it in an hour.
Oh, and Hamster is we might have a surprise appearance by Hamster.
Hamster will be stopping by. He's on the way in, and so we'll be able to go over the paint there a little bit.
Ooh, and we're gonna show. This is a build that Toby put together. We're gonna show the pieces in a build. I think that's everything, right?
Yeah, that's the general idea. Is we released the Dwarven mini doc about an hour ago. The general plan is we're going to release those docs in the morning, and then we'll have a stream afterwards, hopefully with the sculptor and painter who worked on it, kind of going over some of that stuff, or at least some of the sculptors that worked on it, because they all featured more than one sculptor, and Dwarven in particular actually featured literally everybody at the company.
Well, so Casey cut together a little documentary creating each theme, so you kind of get a view of it. In fact, let's premiere it here right now.
Sure. Let's watch this. Yeah, let's watch this doc real quick just to get some context.
So we'll see you in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So one of the exciting things about Reliquaries is this was just a blank slate. With the Terrain Kickstarter, we have a pretty locked-in theme. This was like...
We exported that in 4K.
There's still limitations, but it definitely is less limited than other Kickstarters, if only because
playing
the
okay?
It's all good. Yeah, it's good. It was differently sized than what we usually put on here. Is all.
Yeah, 4 times the size.
Yeah. Four times of it, actually. Let's see.
Some of the early concepts I did were sort of enclosures of burning coals, where the coals would be underneath the dice. We all agreed that Art Deco has a Dwarven feeling because it's sort of a clean, sturdy, strong, and geometric style of design.
The web of artistic influences on this is like so all over the place. Elliot did these kind of diamond buckles. Eli makes this hourglass thing that ties it all together that bubbles back out to the griffin.
I had originally thought to do this for the Elven theme. The team thought it fit more with the Dwarven theme, making it a little more angular, a little more Art Deco. The little bit on the front here was influenced by the ram pillars and the anvil that the dwarf has. And then I threw in the little Dwarven door to create a kind of almost an entryway since you could easily put this up against some of our Earthor mountains and have it as an entrance to something.
Well, I started when I was a little kid. I was like 10 years old, and I started painting for Warhammer. Dwarves were my first miniature love. I started in Warhammer Fantasy Dwarf. Well, for my first iteration, I kind of went with a colder stone. It's kind of my default for stone was kind of like bluish gray. But after some feedback, we decided we wanted it a little bit warmer. So it kind of made me branch out and experiment with, researching different stone and how can I get that result. It kind of turned into this really cool sandy graphite.
The most difficult part of the ram pillar was trying to get symmetry. There's probably easier ways I could have approached it, but none of that occurred to me until I was finished. I mean, the other difficult part was that I had to sculpt it twice because it melted in transit the first time. I don't know, sometimes you sculpt something twice, it comes out better the second time.
At first, I painted every bit of the Rams gold. I just loved them, and I was really picking them out, and they're like, you know what, that might be a little too much gold. So they still have gold eyes and horns, but I just love how the dry brushing with a softer brush really gets this nice gradient and the stone textures, and it was a good, much better choice to lower the amount of gold details. I think there's just enough on it now. I kind of call it the most Dwarven Forge scheme. It's not complicated technically, but it is slick, it's neat, you can see all the details of the incredible sculpt very clearly, and I think it just exemplifies Dwarven Forge paint.
If the ram pillar were to empower your dice, I think that it would make the dice super stubborn. It would refuse to roll low. It would just keep rolling itself until it got a good result.
So back in Wildlands, we were doing a Twitch stream where I was interviewing Drew Williams, who's a longtime collaborator with DF. He is like an anatomy wizard. In that interview, I asked him, what's the one thing you'd love to do for Dwarven Forge? And he's like, one day I would love to sculpt the dwarf, the dwarf in the logo. And then he had some surprise events in his life and he was unavailable to sculpt for us. Luckily, Nina knew Elliot Mallon. He is an unbelievable character sculptor. So he said, hey, do you want to do an analog piece? And he was like, oh, this would be awesome. I'd be honored to be able to sculpt the Dwarven Forge dwarf.
Hi, my name's Elliot Mallon. I am an art director at Ubisoft, and I do a lot of traditional clay sculpting on the side. I think my favorite thing about this sculpt is probably the anvil. It's had to have both an animal on it. It had to hold some dice, yet still look like an anvil. And it had to look cool without any dice in it. And it had to glow. And it was a fun challenge to figure that one out.
Another really cool detail on the dwarf was his hammer. So we had a big debate, what's the hammer of a master smith? Let's ask the community. So we reached out to Gil Ramirez, who's a well-known D&D playing blacksmith. Said, what kind of hammer would a master smith be using? And he sent us all these reference photos of this hammer that he crafted himself. We took some creative liberties and fantasied it up a little bit, but had this unbelievable real reference of this is a handmade hammer made by a master smith, so we could have that authenticity.
So one of the big setbacks I had with this piece was sculpting at such a small scale. I've done a lot of traditional sculpting. My pieces are 5 times the size of these things. So I just wasn't used to this tiny scale. Especially when I tried to smooth things out, it started to look like mashed potatoes. Eventually, we decided to just go at it with 3D. What we ended up doing was taking a lot of the concept sculpts that I had done in ZBrush, just refining those some more, and then eventually modeling all the props on top of it. Also figuring out how to make this 3D sculpt feel like it was made out of stone.
So we shipped him a bunch of different DF things that were made in stone. And he lifted those textures, made a texture map in ZBrush, and then actually used those textures on his sculpt.
I was just doing the base, and we wanted to kind of tie that into our classic dungeon terrain. So our style of heavy, well-made stone. It's sort of a lozenge shape that repeats through the dwarf theme that felt very dwarven. It's got some hard edges to it, but it's not boring and square. It's got a little more going on. Kind of focusing into a central point under the magical anvil where the main design is. Just making that nice and crisp, to feel like the work of a master stonemason to support this mighty sculpture.
So I like playing dwarves, just stubborn beings that are hot-headed but likable. That's my style. Well, I painted the anvil first. So I knew I just wanted to use the metallics to just separate details from the stone, like a lot of the most ornate, important details. In the design meetings, we definitely had some discussion about which details to be gold on the dwarf. What I like about what we came up with is there's this nice line from like the hammer detail to the head and shoulder through to the beard, so there's kind of like a nice sort of diagonal that lines up sort of with his pose.
I like the fact that you can tell immediately that's our logo, and it's just to see it finally come out.
Yeah.
That's perfect for the Reliquaries thing.
We've tapped into some secret artistic reservoir. I'm excited to see the things that we've learned from Reliquaries, how that affects our workflow. Everybody was able to do stuff that really resonated for them artistically, and I think the results show in our work. It's a creative ferment where everybody's like throwing stuff into the stew. The final thing is like this amazing, delightful dwarf stew.
Dwarves rock! You freaking love.
I didn't know that was coming. I'm sorry.
Did you cut it off?
I forgot. Yeah.
It's a sweet little button.
Well, now you have to go watch it on YouTube to see the.
It's a post-credits sequence
see the-
where you reveal.
Oh, dwarves, they fucking rock, and they're
what-
joining the Avengers Initiative.
Nick Fury rolls in
speaking of
and
which,
hires the dwarves.
we actually have him here.
So we so that's a pretty good gives you a pretty good overview of what we were thinking, what we were attempting to do, building these dwarfs. But I would love to dive into some of this a little more. We have Eli here, and then we have Hamster will come in shortly, and we'll talk about paint and color and whatnot. Eli, got a bunch of questions for you. So we for those of you at home, so our design process on these was we'd figure out we figured out sort of the big themes. We kind of had our ideas of themes, and once you had the theme, we had to figure out what were the three things that were going to live in that theme, right? What was going to be the hero, the pedestal, and the throne? And in some cases, like we'll talk about when we get to the Artificer next Monday, right? We had a thing that was really awesome in the Artificer that we were going to have to do at some point, right? Eli's like pet thing that was amazing. But it didn't we couldn't get the family to work with that thing. Like it was, we had to kill some of these designs because we couldn't get a family to work with it. So, do you remember what were some of the big challenges like trying to figure out what the dwarf family was? Because even though we had singular people or sometimes two people, like in the dwarf would sculpt one thing, as a group we were trying to crack like what are we going to make for each of these things as a group, and then someone would silo off and execute it. So do you remember?
Well, there were a couple things along the way. Yeah. One was that as we were, just kind of our initial iteration of all the different things we might do, I guess we were pretty sure from early on we wanted to do Dwarf or Dwarven Forge, but just picking from all the options was tricky and narrowing it down. Okay, once we knew we wanted to do Dwarf, like what does Dwarf look like? There are so many versions of the dwarf world and a typical dwarven style that you can find out there, and we wanted something that wasn't just super square and boring and angular like many of them are, that had some artistry to it.
Well, that was your thing.
It still felt.
You were like, it's got to be master crafted, right? I feel like that kept coming up. You're like, these have to be. These are master artists. They they will spend 100 years carving this one statue. Like it has to be, like that detail and attention to art.
Yeah, and I feel like that gets lost sometimes in some Dwarven designs you see out there. Dwarven is that people are like, oh, dwarves are all about square blocks, and sure, they want something that's solid that will last 1,000 years, that will hold up the mountain on top of them, but they're also master artisans and they want it to be beautiful. And that was something like, say, Tolkien definitely spoke of the beauty of the Dwarven stuff in Moria or whatever. It wasn't just look at all these squares. So we definitely wanted to carry that through. And then knowing that, trying to decide what would represent that world, all the things dwarves might make. And it was actually only kind of late in the process that we even decided we would have thrones and pedestals. We were just coming up with what's the coolest stuff we can make that might be dwarven, elemental, eldritch, whatever the case might be. And ultimately we kind of realized that they were sort of fitting into these families kind of organically. We're like, oh, it seems like we have kind of one of each style that provides some nice variety and also contrast with the hero. So that was everything. But we
had generic
sidecars
sidecars at first, right? It was just
they're
like we were like, oh, there's gonna be one big one and two little ones, and we didn't even know what that even meant. Well,
or would they be the same?
Can you pop the close-up cam? I can't see. I don't have monitors, so I don't know. I can't tell if things are on camera or focused.
I'm actually about to do that real quick. I'm gonna pop it over.
I'm gonna show that if you can actually see what the heck we're talking
We'll
about.
focus on this.
And
then
are they in the frame?
Yes.
Oh,
Is that
some
here?
dice.
I'm actually gonna fix the monitors while you guys talk.
So here we talked about a little in the video, but the like Art Deco style definitely came into play with these things. The angular, there's a lot of angles, right? We wanted things kind of diagonally. This lozenge shape that Eli mentions, right? This little, I don't know. How do you what shape is that, Eli? It's a.
Yeah, I think lozenge is probably the closest thing, or you might call it a sort of kind of a chain, a style.
Yeah.
This chain maybe, or.
It's a rectangular hexagon, right? The classic Dwarven shape, popped up a lot. But the sort of overlapping, right? Everything was sturdy, everything detailed, everything sturdy, lots of nice angles, and then the animal motif came out in this, right? We had Nina did this dwarf, the ram pillar sketch early on that was one of those things that we just got really excited about. So then that was a creature, and then as Michelle was coming up with these griffin sketches, we're like, well, we got two creatures. What are we going to do about the dwarf? And the dwarf ended up, well, let's put something cool on the anvil. And I think Elliot he put like a warthog on there at first or something, right? It was a boar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was calling it a warthog.
I know. Yeah. And I remember you were not keen on that. Wanting something a little more majestic. But
you were extolling the virtues of the majestic swine.
I think boars are very much a dwarven thing because they're strong and they're stubborn and they're a little dangerous when angered, and they're easy to anger, which are all dwarven things.
Yep.
But
they're hairy.
Certainly not the apex predator that, say, a dragon is. I think actually that was an interesting choice we made with the dwarven thing generally, was to do more figurative stuff, more creatures. That's something that gets left out a lot, again, in many dwarven designs. And, dwarves, they may live underground, but they're not indifferent to other creatures. And it certainly admire, say, a griffin or a ram or, any kind of strong beast. And also, it's just a more interesting thing to look at, I think, if it's not purely geometric.
Well, I think that was...
And actually... Yeah.
You're like a lot of the concept art. You kept doing things that had either figures or weapons. Like there was a big throne you did that was made of weapons, and then dwarves bearing a die, and there was figurative stuff kept coming up in all the work. It was just sort of like we're looking on the artistry of dwarves, and they would be doing something, either a scene of battle or a weapon or a figure or a thing, and it was a common theme that kept going, and we chased it and ended up with these guys.
And definitely. Well, and for the hero, we felt like we wanted something figurative, not just a geometric shape, but a heroic dwarf sculpture. And being Dwarven Forge, what better than a smith? I mean, I did a bunch of different concept sketches of different dwarves doing things, and but we came back to the smith at the anvil as the most essential thing, especially for Dwarven Forge, but. It just really, we kind of had to. And if you want to show off your gemstone dice, what better than a master artisan? If you want to dress up your dwarven, if you're building a dwarven metropolis, a huge statue that the epic, artificer king from 1,000 years ago seems like the perfect thing that the dwarves would put at the entrance to their great hall or what have you. So
statue of Moradine or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the video we talked about the hammer, right? Figuring out the hammer and talking to Gil. And this is actually this die that we have on here was hand forged by Gil Ramirez. This is his personal. He sent us his personal D20 to show off on the thing. So he hand forged this thing with the hammer that we saw You said that in the video there. So how cool that sit like right in the thing. It's pretty awesome. There was a big debate on the hammer and the pose.
Yes.
Right? Like you had, what was it? I remember you had strong feelings about the
hammer,
pose.
Well, there's it's a great example of the amount we agonize over details of things. How the pose should be in terms of like how a smith works, how the grip is on the hammer. The initial version he was more choked up on the hammer, which is more of a stonemason's hold on a hammer than a blacksmith's. So we adjusted where his hand was on that hammer, and then there was some debate as to, should he be way up, with the hammer on high like this, which would not really be typical. If you're forging a piece, it's got to be a little lower for a steady, rhythm. You're not trying to smash it in one blow. But there's the coolness factor, what looks most amazing, and it's definitely not being sort of hunched down and doing small careful work like you're
the
making,
rule of cool.
The rule of cool,
whatever.
Exactly. Like, and obviously this is an epic smith, so he's Moradin, or he's the hero smith. So maybe he can hit it as hard as he wants every single time because he's that good, and it looked great. So
he's a tribute to the spirit of the smith, right? It was the over heroic, like the Heisman Trophy of dwarves or whatever, right? He's like in the exaggerated pose because it looks majestic, not maybe an accurate representation of how you would smith. But there was a debate, like it was a couple of days spent trying to figure out, is he up on the balls of his feet? Is he lifting it high? Is it down? Is he focused? What's he wearing? Right? We were like, you wouldn't be wearing like a scale mail, like battle skirt and pauldrons and a crown to smith, but it was like having him in an actual apron and like bandana and stuff just didn't look like he needed to be like this majestic spirit of smithery. So it was,
and let's face it, he probably has fireproof armor, right? I mean, he's so
it's made from the scales of a red dragon. And we originally, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the original base was only going to be like a couple layers of stones, and then you made that phoenix, and that damn thing ended up like 6 inches tall, right? We had all these plans that they were going to be like, we're going to be very restrained. They're going to be about 3.5 inches high, whatever. And this phoenix just needed to fly, and by the time it was done, we'd added an extra 2 inches in height, and then suddenly we had to go back and figure out how to get everybody else bigger.
Well, this is an example of how the needs of the kind of the mechanical side of it kind of drove things, because we needed to put LEDs and a power source in the base.
Yeah.
Once we got that to fit in the Phoenix, you didn't want a little teeny bluebird sitting on top of this giant swirl of fire. It would have been stupid looking. It needed to still be a phoenix on a base, not a base with a little bird.
Yeah, if you started if you had to get all this junk in here for the LEDs, and the phoenix's head was only here, it would it was like he was emerging out of an egg of fire versus like fully aloft. Like there just wasn't enough space to do it.
And likewise, the dwarf, we realized there was not enough space in that base either, because that was another one where it was really a base with a figure, as opposed to, say, the artificer piece, which is kind of a self-contained unit. You can fit stuff up inside that. So we had to have a taller base. Yeah.
And you did
but then that gave us a chance to make the base more interesting.
And you did a couple of passes on the space. Originally, you had like weapons and creatures on it, and we tried a couple of bits. And the sort of understated, like just clean, strong thing that would drive your eyes to the smith was the ultimate winner.
Right, because you didn't want to distract from the main figure. So ultimately,
it was too much happening down below. Yeah. It was a fun. This griffin, I was looking at it, remembering. Do you remember? I wish I'd pulled a picture of it. So this griffin originally, when Michelle first got around to the back, he had like long flowing like Fabio hair, Like there was like he had this like this beautiful like mane of hair that was going down that just somehow like the rest of it is all it's like stoic and tough and hard. And you got around it, it was like this like beautiful blonde hair. Like I don't know why I thought it was blonde, but it just felt like it was sculpted blonde. I'm telling you.
Party in the back, right?
Yeah, it was. It was the mullet. Like the griffin had a mullet, like doing his thing, and it was just, and it evolved into the scales, which someone said was like the crazy armored pineapple or something. What was nice is then it echoes this war skirt and the whole thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth where one sculpt borrowed something and then it got sent back and kind of echoed back and forth among the three.
It was this is because this one was so collaborative, right? Nina did the ram, Michelle did the griffin, and you and Elliot did the dwarf, and then Toby was noodling with printing it 3D, and Miles putting the LEDs. So there's more cross pollination I think on this one than on any for the actual.
Definitely,
sculpting.
yeah.
Well, and our creative meetings. So we have meetings twice a week where you have to show your work. It's kind of probably the worst thing ever, right? It's like this, you're scrambling around and then you have to like throw it in front of the group and everybody's like picking apart with love. Like we're not trying, we're not attacking it, but it's like, you're just looking for every little weakness in the thing of like, can this be stronger? Can this be stronger? Is it accomplishing the thing? And it's like, sometimes it's rough. Like we'll do these things and it's like, someone has worked a week on the thing and it's not working. And you have to kind of go and look and be like, oh man, we have to. I feel like what did you have to cut? Like, when we get to Eldritch, we'll talk about it. Right? You had to cut an inch off the pillar and
that was
scrap from scrap.
Essentially, that was that's a resculpt.
Michelle had to scrap there's just sometimes the process just doesn't work. Like it's not a linear, it's not a line. Like you get to the thing and it's not pulling it. So it's but it means like there's so much. Everybody's pitching cool ideas into this thing and finding notes and like trying to analyze like what isn't resonating. Is there a way to make it better? Is there a way to make it better? And it's a highly iterative, highly meticulous and maybe draining process. But it gets us this because you get all these little ideas from the lozenge that then bleeds over to here, and then this little face was inspired by the anvil, which was inspired by the ram, which is inspired by the thing, and I don't know. I think it's one of the things that makes our stuff strong is that we have this really great pool of creative ideas.
It looks really cohesive, even though all three of these things do have like a different, like they're all like completely different creatures.
Well, that was important, right? That it had cohesion. Like the family. That was the thing is the family had to work together as a group. It couldn't just be. They needed to be standalone, cool, but it also needed to sit together as a group. And actually, we'll talk about paint and how that affected in two shakes. But I wanted to show this was a neat. I don't know if we're gonna be able to read it. Maybe I should put them on white.
It looks they're popping. Yeah, white would help, but they are popping.
Does this make it better? So we had. Does that make it worse?
No, that's good. That's good.
It's nice, clean board to have here. Let's see if we get this. So this was. Let's see what order they are. 1, 3, 4, 2. All right. So these were. So Elliot was sculpting the dwarf himself. Originally, as you saw in the video, like he spent a long time doing this 3D. Doing him in 3D, and they're like, great, now he can start the real one in clay. And he pushed clay around until he was ready to, as he said, he was like, I'm either throwing that thing out the window or I'm going out the window myself. But he hit his absolute threshold on it. Wasn't he wasn't used to working at this scale or in this clay. It was a new clay for him, and he just like couldn't achieve the results he wanted. So we decided to go back to. We were really sort of stubbornly trying to do it analog. We're like, it's the Dwarven Forge Dwarf. It has to be analog. We gotta and man, he really worked hard at it, but it wasn't gonna pan out. So we went back to 3D. But the big push was how do we get the texture to work? Like it needs to the stone texture. The Dwarven Forge stone texture is really important, and we have a lot of cool little special tools. And by special tools, I mean actual rocks, right? Right? Don't you roll like actual rocks onto some of these pieces to pull the texture.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So it's trying to get that texture into. You've shown some of your tools on some of these streams, right? You have some like this wild, funny collection of like, all sorts of.
A pretty big pile of weird little texture
Yeah,
stamps that I've made off of mostly actual rocks.
Yeah, but
And
it
you
also
have
like
different
weird
shapes to fit into places, and yeah.
Yeah, you've just found things along your travels of like, oh, this little thing is perfect for doing or whatever. Wait, so he.
Yeah, I'm constantly collecting weird little pokey bits.
Well, because it works. So
Yeah.
so we shipped him a bunch of pieces, and I was talking about in the video. Like he took a photo and then used the photos to make a depth of a 3-dimensional texture map, and then applied it at different intensities. So this was the samples. These are 4 different samples of, and it's pretty hard to read in camera even this close. But these are different levels of the texture. This was 1, this was 2, this was 3, this was 4, and then we sort of examined these, tried to figure out which one feels, compared it to the actual pieces, like which one feels the most. Like I think number 3 was the winner, or number 4, and then I think we had Hamster. Did you end up painting? Didn't we print one of these out and you dry brush it to see if it took the dry brushing and
stuff like that? Yep.
Yeah, so it was a lot of back and forth of trying to get the same analog texture in 3D so that then it would all fit. So that when you get the whole lineup, everything together, the texture feels cohesive, even though part of this one is done in 3D and the rest are done in clay. And I think the results really worked out. I'll put this back. Do we? Are we doing a giveaway?
Oh.
I don't know if we.
We didn't get. How quickly do you think he'd respond if I bugged him about it right now?
Huh.
Is he in office?
No, but you could Slack. Huh.
All right.
Let's see what happens. Because I think it's a good spot for a giveaway.
Now that you mention it, it's hard to avoid, right?
Now that we've said to the entire audience,
you know what?
hey,
This
should
is
we
what
get
we do.
free stuff?
Let's do the giveaway, and then we'll figure
decide
out
what
the
the giveaway
moving
is
forward.
after?
We'll see if we do others. Yeah, this is the lucky one. If you're here, it's a giveaway. So what's a good secret, Eli? What's a good secret word for the giveaway?
Oh,
Something we can get clearance on.
Should we make it a weird one?
Sure.
Absolutely. It's got to be something people won't just casually. Well, I mean, it doesn't really
It doesn't
matter.
matter. What's a cool? What's your favorite word?
Sonic. Well, I don't know if it's my favorite word, but see who can spell that. First one who spells it right.
What was the word? Moronic?
Sonic. It means, of the underworld, essentially.
Oh,
yeah.
So the problem is, I also need to be able to spell it in order to put it in this thing.
It sounds like it looks like Cthulhu on paper.
Yeah, it's like shall I spell it?
CTHONIC.
Yeah.
So it's Sonic with a lisp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sonic with a lisp. Chthonic.
All right. All right. The password is chthonic. We don't know what the giveaway is going to be for.
It's a $50 gift card.
$50 gift card.
Making here. $50 gift card. Dwarven Forge $50 gift card.
All right. $50 gift card. Go ahead and type chthonic in chat to enter. It is not case sensitive, and you won't be disqualified if you type it multiple times. But please don't type it over and over again, just so that it doesn't completely flood the chat.
Just
the chat is all chthonic at the moment, which is fine. I think this is actually the hardest word we've had as a giveaway word.
We had a couple of wacky ones.
Sonic Cthulhu.
Sonic Cthulhu is amazing.
Hope we can make these pledge manager giveaways for fun. I think that was what we wanted to. We just need to get.
We're working on the pledge manager.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Hamster, why don't you come on in and take the hot seat over there?
All right.
And let's talk about.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Red was a bad choice, I see. Yeah. Oh God. No, we want people to watch.
We can. We've got the power. Watch this. We're gonna
make them pop.
Yeah.
Throw some blue on there.
Go green. Let's go green.
Green. Let's go
Casper,
green.
Hey Rabbit.
I'm going green.
Finley, how are you?
Finley's here. Greg's here. Yeah, McGregor.
There he is.
I am a flame. Yes. Oh, okay. Now I'm surrounded by natural magic. There we go.
So we have with the development process, you get to be you're there watching the sculptors get grilled.
Right.
For this whole
You're like, oh, it's coming.
But then finally they get through. You have these gorgeous things. Right?
Yes.
After like months of figuring it out, for the creative ferment is brewing, boom, and then boom, it lands on your desk. What happens?
You
Well,
panic?
I don't panic until after the first draft, because they're just like, you know what, just do whatever your heart tells you, and I can tell right away when I
Wrong.
first drop it, the moment that people first see it, whether or not I'm going to get major adjustments or not.
Really?
I've learned this.
What's the tell? Like when you throw it.
If there is a pregnant pause, that is when
Like,
you know.
if I go silent for 10 seconds.
People are trying to decipher how to say it nicely.
It's like the feel when like you go to see a movie and nobody talks until you get out of the theater.
Right,
Like
exactly.
after it's over.
Exactly.
You plop this thing. You've spent all night painting. A
Right.
thing, you plop it down the table and there's just silence.
Literally the moment. All right, hey, Hampshire, what do you got? Let's take a look. Okay, I'm painting again. Got it. But when I first started,
Because also there's no rules with the paint, right? Like,
well,
can
right,
do
it's a
anything.
blessing and a curse, right? Because
There's a
you have,
million shades.
yeah, you're welcome to try anything, and that's what's great about it. And so where I first started was what I imagined was kind of, you get through the collapsed mine entrance that hasn't been opened in centuries, and I weathered the crap out of it. You're like, holy smokes, this has been, lost to myth and legend for years and years, and there's a lot of patina and verdigris and that kind of thing, which I think looked very cool, but of course the conversations we had about, these are artisans and these are tributes to things they revere, we decided to go more of the maintained route.
Like Eli was right. You were like, no, they would take care of their statues.
They would take care of it. Nothing. The Dwarven kingdom hasn't collapsed yet. They're still there and making great crafting and statues, and they maintain it and everything else. So,
well, the other challenge I think we very early on we were talking about these of like we need to do a paint scheme that works for. Like, it's going to work for a variety of dice, right? We didn't want it to be bright fluorescent orange.
Yeah, the colors were, a little more specific, less neutral than this. But still, a lot of thought went into this kind of more neutral scheme.
It's really hard to do neutral.
Yeah, and we went through a lot of, color temperature for rock and being inspired by different kinds of rock, because, of course, a huge variety of colors appear in stone and everything. And one challenge for me is just real quick, when I first started painting stone as a kid, right, you kind of learn the thing that you like and you kind of have your fallback or the thing that works, and that was always kind of a cooler stone for me, without even thinking about it consciously. And then I got great feedback and said, let's try a warmer stone, maybe look at this type of stone, granite, that kind of thing, and it really broke me out of that habit and out of my comfort zone, and
it rocked your world?
Yeah, exactly. It rocked my world, and now this will rock your world. Nice.
Well, we originally, right, you and Aaron did tests early on, right, using like dwarf pillars and some other just random stuff of like, hey, what if these were bronze, or what if they were dark iron, or what if they were there were a bunch of sort of early paint tests of trying to find some options that were neutral.
Right.
Initially, I thought that was going to be I thought these were going to be bronze, like all bronze at first. Like that was definitely sort of in my mind's eye as we were doing them.
Right. And that's why I covered it in metal and decided to weather the crap out of the metal, and now here we are. But speaking of metal, we were talking about how like each next piece that we work on informs kind of the previous pieces to make it cohesive, and so we spent a lot of discussion on the hero of where to place the metal accents and how many and which bits get picked out. And so then
close to show them.
So like
you can pick them up.
Let's see, like the shoulders and the little braid clasps, the detail on the hammer. For a while it was very few, but then and we think about like how each detail kind of from the hammer to the shoulder to the belt to the anvil kind of makes a nice line. And so this was all after multiple meetings of feedback of where we're going to place those accents.
Well, that was the thing. I remember, I asked you for miniature painting advice.
Yeah.
Because you've logged thousands more hours than I have.
It helps when you work here,
It's
like you always say.
It's your job.
Yeah.
But one of those things you said earlier to me was,
pick out a neat highlight color and make a triangle. Like take a
Yeah.
pouch and a helmet and a sword hilt and make a triangle.
Right, like making shapes
And-
with the shapes. Like if the
Yeah.
pose is like this, you have a couple options here to kind of make an interesting frame. Almost like looking out for little artsy things like that does help the kind of view from afar, especially.
It helps, and it does help the mini painting. Like I'm trying
Yeah.
to find that one little thing and make a neat little
Yeah.
the relationship to each other is fun.
It's kind of one of those rules of thumb of like, I don't like this and I don't know why, and like how can I what are some things I can use to like help change it, and that's one of them, of like just looking at it as a composition sort of. And so we settled on the metal accents here. We're very happy with it, and so a lot of things got changed. In fact, this is the one I see that has all metal rams.
Oh, is that the old?
This is
that's right.
the old one, and so you'll notice here that the ram's heads are all metal, and there's no metal accents on here, and this is the final one, where we.
That's a brighter metal too. It's like gold as opposed to the bronze.
Yeah. So the kind of getting the warmth of the metal was an adjustment as well. So there's so many little layers that get adjusted as we go. And so just I think I did this one second. And so we fixed the metal on the hero, then we did the griffin. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of metal, but there's like kind of narrower areas and that kind of thing, so it kind of works out well. And then I smacked him with giant metal heads, and we're like, maybe that's too much. So we pared it down, and so it's just interesting how you can have an idea for the piece in a vacuum individually, but then when you see them together, that is really what gives you
Seeing it as a family.
the final say.
whole...
Seeing it as a family affects it, because really, again, we're talking about kind of the composition of a piece. This is a composition of a set that's meant to be displayed together, and that's kind of the story with Dwarven Forge, right? Is you have one piece you're staring at on the desk, and you're like, wait, this is part of a set.
Yeah.
So.
And then you build it out on a whole
Yeah.
thing. You're like, oh.
But each thing can give you a new idea to implement across the entire scheme, and that's what's the really fun part about it. It's happened
that's
with
the
Eldritch.
problem.
It's happened with all the pieces.
That's the problem. Is everything we do just gives us another idea.
Right? Yeah. Well,
Like,
yeah.
Oh, well, you can
Yeah.
also do that. Oh. Hey, Eli, when you're sculpting, how much are you thinking about color and paint? Like, what's your...
I've been curious about that actually too, because obviously you guys have to. You envision the piece as a whole. You're not just like, this is a brown or gray, masterpiece, and that's the end of it.
Sure. It definitely does depend a bit on the piece. Some things I have very specific ideas. Like say I'm sculpting a particular kind of wildflower and I know what color it is.
Yeah.
Or something where I just see it in my head in a certain way. In other cases, I try to be conscious of, all right, you're going to be painting this. You're going to need to come up with a scheme that you like and that the factory can reproduce. So I just need to make it work as a nicely paintable piece. So doing textures that are good for dry brushing, or doing shapes that have different depths. So when you put paint across them, you'll get a highlight naturally. That is definitely something I try and do. And occasionally I'm just like, well, I'll let them surprise me. I'll try and keep it interesting. Like say this is jumping themes, but the artificer stuff, having a contrast between some of the layers of the skin of the furnace portal having a sort of hammered texture and some of it being almost smooth metal, with just a teeny bit of weathering, so that would look interesting. Even if it was all painted the same color, you'd get an interesting, because I was expecting that to be more of a kind of a uniform bronzy, sort of how I was imagining that. So I figured even if it's just one color, because another thing that we're always up against that, Hamster knows very well is no matter how Hamster may be able to make a masterpiece, but if the factory can't reproduce it, it's no good.
Right.
So it has to be something that can be done and look great with a relatively limited palette, generally speaking. And so I do try to think about, all right, what can look cool with just one color on it or two colors on it.
Well, same with the form of the sculpt, right?
Yeah.
Like you can sculpt an elaborate 9-piece thing that has all these, but then like trying to cast and assemble that thing, it's going to end up costing $500.
Sure. Again, the furnace portal, was originally had a bit more of like an orrery thing going on, where there were like multiple layers of stuff spinning around the upper part, and like
we could have done it, but it would have cost 5 times what all the other things did.
You
and
had
that was
9
just-
concentric circles all like spinning on like you were talking about one point having them move it like there's
Yeah, I was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if these were and I was like, well, it'll be the same number of pieces. It'll just need a hinge. But it was not realistic. So and the same thing certainly applies to thinking about the paint. All right, what can you do without using every paint in the box?
yeah.
So and I do try and think about that. Okay, like suppose this thing is just bronze, how will it still look good? Or it's gonna need blue highlights because it's ice, and therefore let's tinker with the surface a little bit more so that dry brush will pull that out. Whatever.
Well, it works.
Well, yeah, that's what I was so impressed by with these sculpts is that they help you paint themselves. Like, we really nailed it on like getting the balance of fantastic art and the manufacturing we have to do. We're constantly trying to add the coolest minute details, and sometimes it can make painting a little fiddly, but here we have the runes, we have great texture, we have all kinds of accents, but it doesn't like take a lot of precision to actually pick everything out. So that's something that we're always trying to like reevaluate past projects and how can we improve, and I think we really nailed it on that front.
Well, remember like the gibbering mouther pit?
Yeah, right,
where
right.
Like you did this unbelievably like
Oh,
free-handed
yeah.
these eyeballs and all this
I
stuff.
free-handed
and then-
eyeballs. Why am I free-handed eyeballs?
Like tiny eyeballs.
You know?
The end
Well,
results.
in
not
my
quite-
defense, that was my first Kickstarter,
Yeah.
so I was like, I gotta impress people. Because I was hired for a month, and so
Yeah.
I was like, I want to stay.
Whatever. 4 years later.
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
still here.
exactly.
It's a long month.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So let's do that giveaway, and then
Oh, yeah.
I will show this
We had a giveaway.
build quick, and we'll take some questions.
Perfect. Oh, that's the wrong. Where's the? Here it is.
Here.
All right,
Here.
Thonic.
Don't go too far, because I'm sure. there's
Zia
some questions.
Buckeye. That is a first time.
Woo! Congrats.
She's a fairly new person. Let me see. Zia Buckeye. Let's whisper you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Woohoo!
Zia Buckeye.
Congrats.
So, is this a gift card you can go to the store right now and get stuff?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. If you want to do some holiday shopping.
Awesome. Okay, I've whispered you. We will get that set up today
Woo!
on the gift card.
All right.
Let's.
Well, that it.
We do have a couple questions too.
Hey, Hester, do you want to operate this this camera? Pop.
While we're
show
setting
people
that
this.
up, so we pull influences from a lot of places. While we were designing the Dwarven stuff, was there any influence from the Dwarven architecture from World of Warcraft? The Ironforge and Wildhammer dwarves?
Yeah, there was, right. I think Michelle pulled a couple of images. I think they were actually, it wasn't from World of Warcraft, it was from original Warcraft.
Yeah. Same general.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like there was some building. Like she looked at a couple of buildings that they had I don't remember the various. There's another pillar somewhere. Various buildings that they you could make in Warcraft. That definitely were an influence. We look at a lot of art online, right? Poke around, see what's out there, and then do a bunch of drawings and inspired by that. What else, Eli? Was there other stuff that?
I mean, certainly, I looked at a variety of like representations of Tolkien's dwarven cities and so on. I don't know. My process is usually, I do kind of do a scattershot approach where I find a zillion things, look at them, and then put them away and just do my own thing, but it's all percolating in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So I never want to copy anything too closely, of course, but just kind of get a feel for a thing to sort of internalize it. I mean, I do that with natural forms too. Like I'll look at a ton of lava and then I'll go sculpt lava and I'll kind of come back and forth.
You know what? I look at magic cards a lot because there's so much good fantasy art that's thematic, and it's just the volume of it is massive, and you can kind of flip through. It's like you flip through cards, like but what's all this? And there's just like just about every cool fantasy trope has been iterated on a lot. And
Yeah, well, Kaldheim, the
Yeah.
dwarves in Kaldheim, there was some
Yeah.
great stuff there. Just
Yes.
all the kind of Celtic, actually, and genuine Celtic and Nordic art from centuries ago. I mean, the Vikings. I mean, I think sometimes dwarves are made too Scottish or too Viking, where there's nothing original to it. But I think those are great influences for dwarves, and dwarves were part of the mythology of those cultures, and that certainly created the concept that all of us think of now when we think of dwarves.
Yeah.
And so it's totally appropriate to kind of go back to that and see, how did the Vikings show a dwarf or create a battle axe motif or whatever.
I think Michelle draws from video games a lot too. That's one of her sources that she goes to.
She does. She's the one who posts
Yeah.
stuff in the dev channel that I like. I'm like, oh, I know that.
Breath of the Wild.
I know that. Yeah.
But also, that's part of the fun is that everybody's drawing from different sources and kind of referencing. Nina references video games a lot too.
Yeah.
Right, because she's played every video game that ever
I've
exists.
talked with her about a lot of stuff. I've talked
Yeah.
with her about she's really big on Dragon Age. I'm sure Dragon Age has influenced a lot.
Yes.
She's really big on Dragon Age.
And sometimes it's often by accident too. Like if you're just kind of looking for images for
Yes.
a reference or an inspiration or an ambiance or something. Like there's just so much great art that goes into video games and whatever else, magic cards, that like you're just bound to come across something that's really cool and influential.
Inspiring artists doing stuff like draw from the stuff you get excited by.
Yeah.
So let's
That's
look
the
at
thing.
this.
Elliot works in video games.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Outside of this, yeah.
Pan on over and check these guys. So this is a build that Toby put together that we shot the other day that we still hadn't taken apart. That uses reliquaries as terrain. So this is like it's supposed to be like a dwarven temple sort of thing, where we've got the griffins here, and this is the flame from the Chaos 3 brazier. Just take that brazier and put the fire in there, and these become cool light sources. Although, look, as Eli was saying earlier, if you put it on the hero and turn the LED on, let's see if we can actually get the LED on. It can. Oh, it's vaguely. Well, no, the battery's dead. Well,
That's why we're making them rechargeable.
yeah.
There you go.
It'll conceptually, if you put it on here and illuminate it up, it's Dwarvenite. It'll be okay.
Somebody-
See, it is a
somebody
ruined
did.
mind.
Yeah. we had, and then we put we got 4 of the dwarven pillars up here with the these are the raven orbs from Dungeon of Doom on there. Toby put a little something at the top, but you can also, once again, these flames, you could put these things
Yeah, I saw them
on
on
top of
the,
there, and it's like
the
The
elven-
flames are like perfectly sized.
Yeah, the elven stuff in Toby's wargame build, they look so cool
Yeah.
on that. Like there's so
it's
many
like
pieces.
goes with everything. Wow. Oh man, we got these things that we're not making. And then the dwarf himself up on the daises, and we used Toby chose the white marble because it was just like that beautiful, majestic
really cool.
stone. It made it really pop, and it played well with this nice, the cooler. Actually, this is warmer, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but it does.
It
kind
somehow
of,
it pops.
The
It's like-
value, kind of, is the bridge between the darker dungeon walls and the white marble, so it's kind of neat.
See what he said. The value, right? That's why you're a painter. This is amazing. Do we have any other?
Yeah, we have some
questions?
questions.
Yeah.
Timarak's asking if any pole accessories fit in those.
Yeah. I mean, anything will fit on top of the thing. This one, actually, I'm just putting in there loose. Just popping it in there. Ooh, it sort of balances. But I don't know. We'd have to test which ones work great, can actually fit over it. This was a thing we were earlier doing a pole accessory plug to fit in there that would that has a hole, so you could pop a pole accessory on. We currently aren't planning on doing it, but who knows if this thing goes through the roof, and it could be a neat little stretch goal. The challenge is making it, like, we wouldn't want to make it in 5 different colors, so it would have to be something neutral that would work with everything.
Is the plug difficult to remove? In the prototypes, yes.
Yes, I can't get it out.
The actual product, no. Once it's actually factory machined and all that. But the resin prototypes we cast in house, it's very hard God, remember all the poles in Wildlands for the drift stones and all that.
Oh.
All the holes that we had drilled ourselves into polystone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's one of those hands-on videos where there's just like squeaking, squealing, like as I'm trying to pull the acrylic rods out of the polystone resin. It's brutal.
Yeah. Let's see.
Is there
There are a lot of
Other
people.
questions?
McGreg earlier was saying that he didn't realize how detailed these pieces were until today. And I think between these
how
documentaries,
did we fail that? Yeah.
I think between the documentaries and the stream, just being able to go really in depth on all of them, I think it really helps get across how cool this stuff is.
Well, I think that was a cool thing about doing sort of a smaller project is like every piece is a centerpiece, basically.
Yeah.
Like everything can get the detail up to 11. We can like afford to do that because we don't have a large piece count, so we really just kind of went hard.
Facts. That's really.
Can you put a few minis on this build for size comparison? Yeah, we have the Bean Slayer
Yes.
nearby.
I'm gonna grab
And
a
we
mini.
can grab some more if we.
Hamster.
Yeah, let's get some minis in there. Are you gonna fly? You're flying. Okay.
We're going.
All right.
Where's my-
Hope everybody took their Dramamine.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
the
those
first one to do
lights.
that.
It's not a day until you.
The one we left
This is
down
the
and people be
Minotaur
hitting
next
it.
to the hero,
Well, those accessories on top of the columns, those are the Raven orbs from Dungeon of Doom.
town guard defending the hero, and the Minotaur is hostage fleeing as the warrior distracts him. So
It's a
yeah.
classic together.
Not my best improv, but so yeah, you
I
can
thought
see.
you were a trained actor.
Yeah, classically.
Classically trained in improv, right? Yeah.
Is the flat holder a stretch goal? The flat die holder? Yes.
Oh, the pole accessory holder.
Pole accessory hole? We're
Pole
currently
accessory holder we don't have currently, but it could, depending on how things to go, we could dust it off.
It's a thing we were developing.
prototyped it, yeah.
Decided against it, but is this a set of 7+2? No, this is only 2 thrones and 4 pillars
And
a hero.
Well, originally the artifacts were going to be pole accessories, and then we sort of realized as we made them, they're better if they could just freestand because they're a little bigger and they could kind of fit anywhere, and we get more. I think people will get more mileage out of them.
Yeah, this is the set of 7 plus the 2. You're right.
Plus that one.
Wait,
That one rogue pillar
are there
that's
4
not
thrones?
the final.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there are 4 thrones. Never mind. Yeah, this
4
is
thrones, 4 pillars,
this is 7+2.
1 dwarf.
I was just looking
Like
at the
an
screen
adventure.
and I only saw the 2 thrones, but yeah, no, there's 4 there. Raven orbs are only in 1 set. We really need to make a pole accessory pack of
Yeah.
and free a bunch of those pole accessories that are stuck in encounters.
Wow, this is a lack of trap.
Imagine the Minotaur just like ripping one of those pillars out of the ground and using it as a weapon.
Throwing it across the dungeon.
Yeah.
That would be very World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Had to buy an entire encounter to get those Raven orbs. Yeah, we really need to. We need to reconfigure that. If it does it hold a mini? Right. Okay. So we've got 2 flat holders. We've got the flat die holder, which is sized specifically to hold dice, but it can take a 25 millimeter mini, I believe.
Yes.
And then the mini holder can take a 25 or a 32 millimeter mini.
Yes. The flat die, put it in. This is easier to see.
I think we have both of them in the room.
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, awesome.
Let's do the
They work
I don't know if
really
that'll
well.
come out. Maybe
So
it's too tight.
the flat die holder and the mini holder specifically is kind of hard to fit in some of the thrones, but it will work on all the pedestals
Yeah, this
and
one's-
most of the heroes, I believe,
Again, prototypes.
because it's
Prototype.
wider. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta get one that
prototypes.
actually fits. But,
Oh, is it not fitting in there?
yeah. This is the flat die holder.
Oh, remember we had to shave one down to
Yeah.
because the hole was too.
So this thing has a whole series of concentric circles in there, so you can hold a huge variety of different dice flat. Basically, any die. In fact, and the little corners are cut out there so that you can fit like the dispel dice D4s are absolutely massive. Like their footprint is really big. So that's so you can fit like a dispel die D4 in there.
Here's an interesting idea. Oh, never mind. Well, no, yeah. But why not put a small hole in the flat die holder so that it doubles as a pull accessory plug? Is what they're saying.
Could. It's pretty big and clear.
It aesthetically wouldn't like blend in terribly much, but if you just wanted a way to make pole accessories like stick in, it's something.
Ooh.
Primark, first time chatting, says, Alan in England here, great projects, but I'm uncertain how to choose what level I want, so we'll email. Yeah, reach out to customer service, post in the Kickstarter comments, hit up the Discord. There's a lot of ways to reach us, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. We're also going to be having a video going over the pledges soon. I think we're aiming to have it out tomorrow.
Oh, we're shooting tomorrow.
We're shooting it
There's
tomorrow.
bound to be people in the comments who can offer perspectives on things if you're trying to decide between one thing and another. A lot of us go on there regularly, but also longtime backers who enjoy agonizing over exactly what's the best way to get whatever particular goal you have achieved by some combination of sets or whatever. So people love to chat about that.
Hoppy Hippo says, I think you should show off the mini capability a bit better because I'm coming up with some ideas right now.
The what capability?
Show off the mini capability. I think that means putting minis in builds with Reliquaries.
Or putting them on.
Or putting them on the pieces. That was the thing. Like, Toby took a picture of a mini inside the Enigma spider.
Yeah.
And like that's a really cool thing. It's like, oh yeah, that could be a mobility device. It could be a trap, like some kind of torture device. It could be a lot of things when you put a mini on it.
There we go.
Even the ability tracker becomes a cool, memorial in the middle of your town square. Yeah. Oh, it's 12 o'clock. We should wrap this thing up.
Oh, it is. Yeah, we need to get going. Guys, yeah. So we're gonna have to call it. We have some meetings and stuff to take care of. But we'll
be back tomorrow.
Farmers. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. I think we're actually adjusting the time of the stream tomorrow a little bit. We'll have it in the in the Wildlands update tonight.
Probably in the Reliquaries update. Might be better.
Or the Reliquaries updates. I'm so used to. I've been saying Wildlands update
for a year.
For like a year. Yeah. I'm just used to that. Tomorrow we're going to be doing basically what we did today, but for the Elemental family. And then after that on Saturday,
Eli, you're back tomorrow. Talk Elementals, right?
Back. Yes.
Woo! This has given me an idea.
Phoenixes.
If you had a mini painted in the stone color of your fallen PCs or fallen heroes, you could have a hall of all your fallen legendary heroes and place them each on a pillar.
This is the one to really do it on. Take the ability tracker, put their name.
Yeah,
put their name on there,
cool.
And then you put them on the thing, and
your whole RPG history.
All your fallen characters are the past queens of the thing or whatever. Like there's.
That's cool.
Yeah. Or retired characters who often didn't die horribly, but just made it to 20th level and got retired and became the legends.
Yeah. Like we're like, all right, we have to go, and then we get up and
I know, yeah.
We can do this.
See you, legends. Thank you guys. You're all legends. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the good questions. Please keep them coming. Put them on the Kickstarter comments. Put them in Discord. Put them on the forums. We'd love to hear what you're thinking and what's not clear and what else you'd like to see in the campaign. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Eli.
Bye.
Thanks, Hamster.
Great chatting with everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.